So much happening. Okay, everybody. Oh, there's more people coming. This is fun. Love having parties that lots of people come to. All right, I might just do a little intro. So thank you, everybody, for joining in today. Mark will be an absolute wealth of knowledge for this. And we need to thank Local Buying Foundation again. They've just been fantastic in helping us put on all these series. And it's wonderful. So I think everybody now knows about the little chat room down the bottom. If you've got any questions for Mark and it's really relevant to what he's talking about, I'll actually very nicely butt in and ask the question then. If it's something that can wait till the end, we'll leave it till the end. So, but if you've got anything to ask, please pop those questions in. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. And if everybody can just mute themselves, and once Mark starts, we might turn our videos off as well. So we'll just have Mark and his slides and all that sort of thing. Hope all your iPhones are all nice and charged. I put that on Facebook this morning to remind you all. So take it away, Mark. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Chrissy, and a big thank you to the Local Buying Foundation and Mackay Tourism for letting me talk about my favourite topic with you all today, which is content creation. I've been doing this for about 4 years now. I've been working with different tourism boards, tourism businesses, both locally, interstate and around the world on photos and videos to really capture people's attention and get them thinking about making that place their next holiday destination and that experience. So I work also with Escape and do a bit of travel writing with them as well. If I've just put up my details there, if anyone would like to jump on and follow me on Instagram, if they don't already, it's @_Mark Fitz. So I'll give that plug. So today I'm going to be talking about how to create captivating content. We're going to look at, first of all, what is captivating content, and then we're going to delve into planning and the three main types of photography and videography subjects when it comes to tourism: the scenic content, nature and wildlife content, and food content. So I'll run through what my planning process is when I'm looking to capture captivating content to do with those topics, what my process is, so that you guys can go out and when you're looking to shoot that yourselves, you can put these steps in place as well. We'll also have a look at editing options, some of the tools that I use for editing, and they'll be mainly centered around mobile phones, so you don't need to go out and get expensive subscriptions and things like that. These are free editing options that you can go and download the apps from the App Store. And lastly, look at the latest trends and opportunities. With this COVID-19 crisis, there's been a bit of a change in the trends in how people consume content and what they're looking and how they're looking to consume it. So I run through a couple of the observations that I've made over the last couple of months to do with that. Now, first up, we're going to look at what is captivating content, and it's content that is thumb stopping. So if you haven't heard that term before, what that generally means is you've got your phone out, you're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram with your thumb, and you go, wow, that's an amazing photo, and it stops you in your tracks. So it grabs your attention and you're impressed enough to either like it, comment, share, save it, or screenshot it and send it to a friend. So that's our objective. Whenever I'm creating content for a client, I want it to be wow. I want people to go, okay, I'm going to save it, or I'm going to share it, or I'm going to comment on it to tag a friend or something like that. Now, in order to get that captivating content, what we need to do is develop a plan. It's like anything. It's like if you're going to bake a cake, you need a recipe. If you're going to put together some furniture or something like that that you've bought from the shop, you need instructions. When it comes to content creation, it's no different. We can't just walk out the door and hope to create some amazing content. We need a plan in place. So when it comes to planning, first step I look at is what is the subject that I'm shooting. There's no point going out and just hoping to capture any old thing. You need to have a specific subject in mind that you're going to be photographing. We then need to look at things like what is the best time of day to shoot it? How does the subject behave? What are the best angles? Do I look at capturing photos or videos? What equipment do I need to have to be able to capture that content? And also some local inspiration. So I put up a few accounts locally that I think we should all check out and have a look at for how they're creating content, because there's some really great local businesses around that are putting out some fantastic content. Now, so the first topic within the tourism sphere that I'd like to look at with planning for content is scenic content. And the subject that you're shooting when it comes to scenic content is generally it's a combination of a beautiful landscape, and then you've got a human element in it as well. Now, the human element's important because it helps the viewer visualise themselves there. It adds a sense of scale as well, and it helps the viewer connect and put themselves right there in that place. So I've got a couple of examples there across the bottom. The first one is the surfing photo, and that's last year that was my most liked photo on Instagram. Beautiful blue water, and that all looks great, but if you don't have the people in it, it's just missing that little X factor, particularly with the surfers. So if you're into surfing or stand-up paddleboarding or kayaking, things like that, if you've got a photo of somebody doing that there, immediately you've captured the attention of those people in those interest groups that go, oh wow, I want to go and take my surfboard there, or I want to go and take my stand-up paddleboard there. Those waves look phenomenal. It's the same with the other two examples there as well. Just having that person there with the camping scene. Now, it wouldn't quite be the same if it wasn't, didn't have the two people around the campfire there under the Milky Way with that fire. People go, oh wow, I want to go out camping and do that with my family. So having that human element there really helps you connect. The next step with the planning is then to look at what is the best time of day to shoot. And for me, Google Maps is my first go-to tool. We've all got access to that. And the reason why I use Google Maps so much is before I even get to the location, I can do some planning. I can look at, okay, with me, I do a lot of coastal photography. So I'm looking at, all right, where's the beach on that coast? Which way does it face? Because not all beaches face east. Some of them are north facing and things like that. So you need to get a feel for, all right, well, if the beach is facing this particular way, it'll be a great sunrise spot. Or, okay, is the beach facing the other way? It might be better at sunset. So Google Maps helps get in my mind the time of day that I need to be there to shoot it. For the best time of day to shoot, you also need to look at what's the mood that you're trying to create. Do you want a bright blue sunny sky, or do you want a nice picnic scene or something like that at sunset? You really need to know what time of day will best reflect that feeling that you're trying to get across in the photo. With the best time of day to shoot, you also need to look at if the ocean's involved, whether it's a high tide, a low tide, or it's in between. I've got the example there on the screen from Whitehaven Beach. And that's really important at Hill Inlet in particular. If you go there at low tide, those silica swirls are a little bit more green in colour, and they aren't as stunning and as eye-popping as when the water's either at mid or high tide. So if you're going to capture content and the ocean's involved, make sure you know what tides work best. Also, if you're looking to shoot at sunrise and you're trying to get some nice water underneath palm trees and things like that, you'll often need it to be a high tide to be able to capture that shot. So always keep in mind, if you're shooting with the ocean as a part of the scene, then you need to know what tide will work best in that. And lastly, is there a particular part of the scene that needs lighting from a certain direction? There's no good going down to a beach to shoot and the beach faces east. So if you're going there late in the afternoon and the sun's already ducked down behind the mountain, behind the beach, you're not going to get any of that light. So you need to know, all right, if I'm going to shoot this beach, like at Whitehaven here, the best time that I like to shoot those swirls is generally from about 10 in the morning through to about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Any earlier than that, and the sun will be a little bit too low and you won't get that really popping blue water. Any later than that, the same thing will happen as well there. So if lighting is important to the scene, make sure that you plan for that and identify the best time of day to shoot there. Next up, how does the subject behave? So with landscapes or scenes with people in it, generally the scene itself, like in this example here, those rocks and those trees aren't going to move. They're always going to be there. But if you have people in the frame, that can change the whole feeling of a shot. And so if you're shooting with a couple of people that you can direct, then you can influence that. And in this example here, we wanted to convey a really happy scene. This was at Magnetic Island last March. I was actually living up in Townsville at the time, and we'd just gone through the floods. We'd gone, Townsville had images plastered all around the world of grey skies, murky water, floods, all the rest of it. So we wanted to go and combat that. So how do we do that? Well, we found a spot on Maggie. We had beautiful blue water, we had a beautiful backdrop, and then we wanted to convey a sense of fun and happiness, and you want to be here. So we got someone on a paddleboard in the foreground, and then we got a couple of them up on the rocks, jumping up in the air, putting their hands up in the air, looking like they're having a wow, amazing time. So if you can direct the people in your shot there, that's great. If you can't, and you're shooting a scene where you've got crowds moving through and things like that, that takes a little bit more planning, and you need to start and observe and anticipate where people might be moving into a scene and through a scene. I did a shoot last year where the client wanted people in all the shots, but they didn't want the people to be identified, and they didn't want me to have to go and ask permission and things like that. So you had to shoot where people were crowded spaces. You couldn't identify the people in the shot, so they had to be facing away from camera. And I had to then, and because I had no control over what they were doing, I then had to anticipate, okay, I've lined up the shot here, I need people walking from left to right through the photo. So then I had to put myself in that position and keep an eye out for people who might be walking through or riding through or things like that. So observation and anticipation is really important. You mightn't have talent that you can work with, that you can direct, but you can anticipate what certain people are going to be doing as they're coming through the scene, and you can still get a really good shot. So that's one of my most important tips there for if you can't control the subject's behaviour. Now, planning. What are the best angles when it comes to scenic photos? Well, when you're using people in the shot, you generally don't want them facing the camera, because the viewer, first of all, they'll look for the people and then they'll look at their face, and that detracts from the whole scene. So generally you want the people in your shot, like I've got in this example here, they're facing towards those cliffs and that little cutout there in the cliff wall. So I wanted to show that this place is accessible, and you're out in a kayak, and I wanted that little cutout there, that little arch, to be the main focal point there. So I got those ladies there just to pull up next to me in the kayak. She whipped out her phone, and it looks like, oh wow, this is the kind of place I want to go and check out and take a few photos to share back home with my friends and family. Now, when it came to planning this shot as well, it's also important to make sure when you've got people in the shot that you're placing them in a clear part of the image. And this example here, I didn't want them anywhere in front of that arch and that rock structure there. I wanted them in the bottom left-hand part of the screen, so you can identify there's people there, but they're not the main focus. They're just helping tell the story. And the other important thing is when you've got people in the shot is you don't want them just standing there stationary with their hands in their pockets looking boring. You want them to be doing some sort of action. So in this case, I asked her to get her phone out to look as though she's taking a photo of the archway there. Other activities you can get people to do, it's as simple as walking or swimming or paddling or anything like that. Anything with just a little bit of movement so it doesn't look staged and it looks like a fun sort of normal scene that you expect to see in that particular location. Next up in my planning process for scenic photos, I'm looking at, or scenic content, I'm looking at, do I capture photos or videos? Now, if there's not much happening in the scene and things are pretty stationary, there's not a lot of excitement, then photos are generally my go-to first of all. If there's a little bit of action taking place, then I look at capturing a photo and a video. I've got a couple of examples here from Haggerston Island where we got one of the workers there to pop out in a yellow kayak, and I've got some great photos, but I also wanted to do a little bit of a zoom out video to show, okay, you can do this kayaking here, you zoom out, look at the incredible spot you're in. And videos also help show that the scene isn't photoshopped. Quite often you come to a beautiful place like Haggerston Island and go, that takes my breath away. You post a photo up and people sometimes, they can't believe that a place looks that good. So videos, you can't Photoshop them like you can with photos. So if you have a photo and a video looks exactly the same as the photo, got the same colours, everything like that there, that helps to show that that scene isn't Photoshopped. And I'll just hit play on this video so you guys can have a bit of a look at what I mean by that. So everything is the same. I've just got a little bit of movement with that camera, just panning away there, just to zoom back and show a little bit more of the island and that spectacular place. So quite often when it comes to planning, my number one priority is photos, but then how can I also go about complementing that with a video? And that's, if there's, the kayaking helps as well, because it's not a stationary subject. That person's kayaking along, and so it grabs your attention. The videos don't have to be very long either. I mean, that one there was only about 6 or 7 seconds. That's all you need to do. You don't need to go and create 1 or 2 minutes of amazing footage. Simply just a couple of seconds of footage can quite often do the trick.
Mark, Kath
Yep.
has just got a question. She says, is there any science to the shoot that 1/3 to 3/3 or bottom right-hand side?
Yep. So with composing a shot, there's a couple of different techniques that you can use with composing a shot. I generally try to place my subject along 1/3. So what I do is I look at my screen, you've got your screen there in front of you, and I divide it up like a noughts and crosses screen. So you got 2 verticals and 2 horizontals. And then what you want to try and do is place your subject along one of those thirds, along one of those lines. So whether it's vertically or horizontally, something like that, the main part of the photo that's really going to grab someone's attention, you want to place along one of those thirds there. Does that make sense?
Where's Kath? I'll unmute Kath. Oh, yes, there's a yes.
Cool, excellent. So yeah, now planning for scenic photos. Now, what equipment do I need? Now, with most of my work, it's coastal, it's around beaches and things like that. So the most important tool for me is a polarizer filter. And the polarizer filter that screws into the front of your camera, onto your lens, or attaches to the front of your phone, it's exactly the same as polarizing sunglasses. It's got the same function. It reduces glare from the water and from the sand. So you quite often notice if you're out in the boat and you're looking at the water with just your eyes, it looks nice, but when you put your sunglasses on, you can actually see some of the fish or some of the reef or things like that under the water. So the polarizer filter for your camera or your iPhone does exactly the same thing, and it really brings out those rich blues in the water, the blues in the sky, and also helps make things like tree foliage and those sorts of things look just that little bit more greener. And I've got a link on there. It's a company that I've used in the past called Sandmark. If you're after just a polarizer filter just for your phone, if that's what you're shooting with there, then check out Sandmark stuff. They're usually pretty good. I started off, before I started using a DSLR camera, I was shooting with an iPhone, and I used those filters and things like that for the first 12 months. You can get them for your GoPros and all that sort of stuff as well. Now, another important tool for scenic tourism style photos is a wide angle lens. Now, in the example I've got here, this is at Fraser Island at Pyle Valley, and you've got trees there that are 30, 40 metres high. And so you want to try and, in that photo, convey the height of those trees. And by putting in this case, the human element is the 4-wheel drive. People can see themselves going along that sandy track and just being overwhelmed by there's a huge canopy of like 30, 40 metre trees. But to be able to get that perspective in a photo, you need a wide angle lens. You can get wide angle lens for all types of cameras, as well as for your smartphones as well. And Sandmark have got those wide angle lenses there. I should get a commission from these guys for selling all those wide angle lenses.
Mark, we do have a couple of questions on what sort of costs are we talking about for a smartphone and a camera, to be just approximate cost.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a wide angle lens like through Sandmark or something like that, generally it's anywhere between sort of $50 to $100 for one of those clip-on wide angle or polarizers. You can get them in packs as well, so you can, which makes it a little bit cheaper. So you could get a polarizer and a wide angle lens and a telephoto lens, like a three-pack combo for maybe $150. Alternatively, if you're looking at going out for your, say you've got a DSLR camera and you're looking for a polarizer filter, the ones that I buy are generally anywhere between $130 to $200 for the polarizer filter for your lens. And with your lenses on your DSLR cameras, they come in different sizes as well. So if you've got a wide angle lens, a telephoto lens, a mid-range lens. They'll all be different sizes, so you'll have to buy different polarizing filters for each of those lenses based on those sizes. So it can add up. If you have 3 lenses and you want polarizer filters on all of those lenses, then you could be looking at maybe $300-400. But I try to look at, do I need a polarizer filter on this particular type of lens? If I'm not going to be shooting it a hell of a lot, then maybe I won't go and get a polarizer lens for that one. If you're looking at wide angle lenses for DSLRs, then you could be looking at anywhere from my very first wide angle lens that I bought for my first entry level DSLR was only about $300 or $400. If you've got an expensive setup, and you're looking for a really wide angle lens, you could be looking at anything up to a couple of $1,000s. I don't recommend going out and splashing a couple of $1,000s on a lens straight away. If you're just looking to get into it and having a bit of a play around with it, I'd be using the smartphone and trying out the wide angle lens on the smartphone just to see how you go with that, if you're comfortable with that, if you enjoy it. And then if you want to step it up and get a little bit more advanced, then by all means, then go and look at your DSLRs and things like that. But if you're just looking at creating content and you're just starting out, I'd be looking at some lenses like polarizers and wide angles for your smartphone. Does that help?
Yeah. So it's probably a good option for somebody who's wanting to create a bit of their own content.
Exactly.
To sort of get started, especially like we've had a bit of a lean time at the moment.
Yeah.
You don't want to be outlaying too much. So yeah, that phone idea sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be running with that. It's a much cheaper option to begin with, and you create great results as well. I mean, I started out with an iPhone and those lenses, and I got some of those photos were published in books. Those photos were featured by Tourism Australia and Tourism Queensland on their social media accounts. So you don't need the most expensive equipment. The important thing is to have a tool at your disposal like an iPhone and that lens, and then putting these planning steps into place so you can create that great content.
Great, thank you for that. And we'll try not to compete with you too much.
No worries. Now, after the equipment, we're looking at inspiration. So for scenic travel type content, I'll be looking at Visit Mackay, Visit Whitsundays, Visit Queensland and Tourism Australia. They're featuring the best of the local content that they're coming across every day. They're looking through all their Meet Mackay region hashtags, the Queensland hashtags, the See Australia hashtags. So if you're looking at getting great travel inspiration, go to there first of all, and then say Visit Mackay. They'll go through and tag the actual photographer that's used those photos or that business that's taken those photos, and then you can go through from there. But that's where I started when I was looking for inspiration, when I was starting out taking scenic travel photos. I was looking at the region that I lived in, and then the step up from that, which is Tourism Queensland, and then the step up again, which is Tourism Australia. So scroll through those photos, have a look at what takes you your fancy. There might be some locations there that you haven't seen before, and if you're a business here that you're trying to get people to stay a little bit longer in the region, then you can go and promote these locations. You can go and take photos from these locations yourself because you've been able to scout them out and find them on social media. Last couple of weeks, I've been doing a lot of digging through these particular accounts here, just trying to see if there's any secret spots that I might have missed over the last 12 months or so. And there's been one or two little gems in there that I'm keen to check out once the restrictions are lifted a little bit more.
Mark, we do have an interesting question here. Melissa said, are we better off sharing these posts that we see or copying and posting photos with the source reference?
Look, I'd be sharing them because that's got all the information in there. So if you see a photo that Visit Mackay has popped up and you love it, I'd be sharing that. That's your best bet, rather than trying to save photos and then crediting and things like that. On Facebook in particular. On Instagram, you can't do that. And if you want to share a photo, then there are some apps where you can download that photo, and then you'll have to do a caption yourself and do the credit there. But if we're looking just at Facebook, I'd be just sharing predominantly to be able to do that. Does that all make sense?
Yep, thank you.
Cool. Now, we'll move on from scenic travel photos to nature and wildlife content. And the nature and wildlife that I'm going to focus on here this morning is your kangaroos and your platypus. They're the Mackay region's most famous wildlife. So I'm going to give you some tips on when I'm planning to take photos and videos of these guys, what I'm looking to doing. Now, the best time of day to shoot, so if we're going to Cape Hillsborough to get the kangaroos and wallabies on the beach, then sunrise is their number one time to capture them down there. It's the only time they're generally on the beach as well, and the reason for that is to do with their food source. They're coming down to feed on the mangrove seed pods and bits and pieces that wash up overnight. They come down there. Once they've done their feeding in the morning, then you won't see them on the beach for the rest of the day, unless there might be one or two on an off occasion that will pop down there. But generally, once the day starts warming up, it gets a bit hotter, they head off back up into the bush for some shade and to laze around and beat the hottest part of the day. So if you want to get photos and videos of kangaroos and wallabies, then sunrise is the time to be down on the beach at Cape Hillsborough. If you're looking at capturing content of a platypus at Youngalla, then the early morning and late afternoon are the prime times. They generally come out to feed. They'll pop up to the surface of the water for a few seconds, and that's generally the time that you'll see them do that. During the middle of the day, they're not as prevalent, not as easy to spot. Now, how does the subject behave? So when we're looking at taking photos of kangaroos, they're generally pretty inquisitive and they're happy to come up close to people. They also like to fight amongst each other and can create some great videos. So keep an eye out for, there might be one particular kangaroo that you notice, or wallaby, that's going around to the others and it's trying to pick a bit of a fight. For whatever reason, he might be just grumpy that day. But keep an eye on that particular wallaby or that particular kangaroo, because every now and again, one of the others, instead of hopping off, they might put up a bit of a boxing display. So keep an eye on that one, and that can create a great photo and video opportunity. When it comes to wallabies, they won't come up to you. They're generally more timid, and if people start to get too close to them, they'll hop away. So you need to be very patient when it comes to photographing wallabies, and you have to be extremely quiet. You can't be as animated as what you might be around a kangaroo. With the platypus, they're also very shy, and you've only got maybe 5 to 10 seconds to get the shot of the platypus. Fortunately, before a platypus comes up to surface, though, you'll see some bubbles starting to form on the surface, and they're coming from the platypus. As the platypus is about to come up, they'll be blowing some bubbles. You spot those bubbles, and then that platypus will surface very close to where those bubbles are. So whilst you might only have 5 to 10 seconds to get the photo, you do have a little bit of lead time to see where they will be popping up, and then you can zoom in and get your shot that way. So next up, we're looking at the best angles. So once we've looked at their behaviour and the best time to take the photos and the videos of them, we need to know what's the best angle to get the photo or the video. And with kangaroos and wallabies, I've got an example there from Cape Hillsborough. I like to be down on the ground and get as close as possible to the ground and photograph upwards. Most people, when they're walking around and they're looking at wallabies and kangaroos, they're looking down on the animal and they take a photo from standing up. To get something a little bit more unique, get down on the ground. Don't be too worried about getting dirty. Whenever I go to Cape Hillsborough, I make sure I'm wearing board shorts because I know the sand's going to be wet and I'm going to get absolutely soaked. That's all right. You don't have to lay down in the sand, but if you can just crouch down and get as low to the ground as possible, by taking it at that angle, it provides a view that most people don't generally see of a kangaroo or a wallaby. And that's what you want. You want to be providing people something a little bit different and to capture their attention. You don't want just the same old angle of Joe Bloggs standing there taking a photo from their eye height. You want to get down to the animal's height and really see things how they see things in their world. And with the platypus, they're quite small and they're only on the surface of the water for a short period of time. So in order to be able to get the shot, I want to try and find a vantage point that allows me to look down on the creek or the river, and it gives me a view so I can spot where the bubbles are coming up to the surface, and then that gives me that extra couple of seconds. So with the kangaroos and the wallabies, I'll be shooting up. With the platypus, I'll be looking to shoot down just because I need to have that view of where they're popping up. Now, the next step when it comes to photographing in nature and wildlife is, do I capture photos or videos? And it generally depends on their behaviour. If the kangaroo or the wallaby stationary, then if you've got a video of a kangaroo or a wallaby just sitting there, standing, doing nothing, that's not great video. So if they're stationary, I'll take a photo and that'll suffice. That'll look really nice. But if then the kangaroo or the wallaby starts to get a bit cheeky and it goes around trying to rough up a couple of the others, then I'll switch over to video, because particularly for overseas people, viewers of the content, they don't see kangaroos and wallabies very much, and to see kangaroos and wallabies actually boxing is even rarer. So if you can capture that in a video, I've got an example here. Ray and Lindsay down at Cape Hillsborough, they just started laying into one another, and that's the kind of scene that it grabs your attention, and you go, oh wow, I didn't know that they like to box and fight amongst one another. So if you see that sort of behaviour starting to happen, switch over from photos to videos and look at capturing. I mean, that's only a 5 or 6 second clip there as well. You don't need to have 1 or 2 minutes of footage, and most people's attention spans only for a few seconds anyway. So if you can capture that particular activity or that movement in those couple of seconds, then that's great. When it comes to platypus, now they aren't generally as playful. They'll come up to the surface, they'll have a bit of a look around, they'll chew their food, and then they'll go straight back down. So with that, I'm mainly looking at capturing photos of them coming up to the surface. Now, every now and again, you can come across a couple of platypus that are on the surface at the same time, and one might swim over to the other and start to get a bit playful and things like that. And in that case, then I'll swap over to video, because it's a rare scene, and it's hard to capture platypus playing in a still shot, but you can capture it in a video. So I like to get a same sort of thing, maybe 5, 6, 7 seconds of video footage there of a platypus playing. And if you look through all the content online of platypus, there's very little content, videos of them playing and being animated. Most of the content you'll see is a still photo on the surface. So if you're fortunate enough to come across one and he is playing with one of the others, try and grab a video of that, because it will do particularly well.
Mark,
yep.
I'm sorry, Kath just wanted to know, are you using 2 cameras? Like, are you going between something that you're doing a video on and something you're taking a photo on? That sounds a bit hard, but...
No, generally not. So with your smartphones and with your DSLRs, you've got the option of switching from photo to video. There's a button that so if I'm taking my photos on my DSLR, there's another button that I just move my finger across and hit record, and it'll be the same on all cameras. There's a button that you can just switch across and hit record, and it immediately switches into video mode and starts recording. Using 2 cameras isn't ideal, because you've got to put one down, pick the other one up, and quite often you don't have that 2 or 3 seconds, because the animal's displaying that behaviour right in front of you right then, and you don't have time to do that. But with your iPhones and with your DSLRs, you can just use the one camera and switch over to grab that scene.
Thank you.
No worries. Now, when it comes to wildlife, what equipment do I need to be able to capture that captivating content? So for photos, if I'm taking a photo of a kangaroo or something like that, or in particular, I'll focus more on the wallabies and the platypus. With the brand new iPhone 11 Pros, they've got zoom-in lenses built into them, so you don't need to go and buy something like a zoom lens from Sandmark. You can just use the zoom lens built into your phone. If you've got a DSLR, most of the lenses, you can zoom in with that to capture your wallabies and your platypus. The reason why I use a zoom lens for those is because they're a lot more timid, they're a lot smaller, and they're generally further away. You won't be able to get that close like you would with a kangaroo. If you're looking at taking photos of kangaroos, because they'll come quite close to you, you'll be looking at a wide angle lens for those. So this is why it's so important when you're looking at going out to take photos. You want to know what your subject is, so you know what lens you need to have on at that particular time. If you're swapping your lenses from a zoom lens to a wide angle lens, then that can take up a valuable 10, 20 seconds that you need to capture the photo or the video. So if you've got in your mind, okay, I'm taking a photo of a kangaroo, I'm going to use a wide angle lens today. I'm going to stick with that wide angle lens, because if I'm swapping and changing, that's going to eat up valuable time. Alternatively, if I'm going to capture platypuses or wallabies, I'm going to go for a zoom lens, because I know I can't get close, and the zoom will enable me to get closer to them and get that photo or video that I need. And you can get your zoom and your wide angle lenses through Sandmark for your iPhones. And if you're looking to spend a little bit more money for your DSLR, then you can get those as well, but they are considerably more expensive.
Mark, have you used the iPhone 11 Pro? Like, it's nearly time for me to update my iPhone.
Em's got one, and I love it. It's great. It's got like three lenses on the back of it there, and it's a lot of fun. It saves a lot of time with the shooting. So I've only got an iPhone 10 at the moment, but I'm looking at upgrading to 11 after I saw Em got her 11 not long ago, and I'm very impressed with it.
Okay, excellent. That's what I'm going to upgrade to too. Thank you.
No worries. Now, when it comes to shooting videos, they can be shot on your iPhones. That's no worries at all. Now, if you're stationary in the one spot, generally you can hold the phone pretty stable, and it's not, when the footage comes out, it's going to look reasonably good. If you start walking with the video, though, so you're walking along the beach, say at Cape Hillsborough, and going from one group of kangaroos to the other, and you're showing how close they are, and you're walking along, the camera will start to bounce around a little bit. No matter how steady you try to keep it with your hands, as you're walking along, it'll bounce. So one of the tools that I use for that is a gimbal. Now, it only costs $150 from JB Hi-Fi, the one that I got, and you clip your iPhone into it. It's called a DJI Osmo Mobile 3. And as you're walking along, that gimbal will keep the phone completely still. You won't get that shake movement in the footage that you would get without it. So if you're going to be doing some videos and you're going to be walking along with that video camera, I can't stress enough how important a gimbal will be. And if you're shooting with the phone, then you're only looking at about $150 for that sort of thing there. If you're looking at a gimbal for your DSLR and those sorts of things, then they are considerably more expensive. And I haven't bought one for my DSLR because I just can't justify the cost of $3,000 or $4,000 to get one that I need for my camera. But I do have this gimbal, and those gimbals that you're using, if you've got an iPhone there, you can shoot in 4K, which is brilliant. I mean, most people are only consuming content in 1080, so they don't need footage in 4K, but I like to have it in 4K just in case. And that's all done through your phone. So you don't need to go out and spend big bucks. You can get a gimbal for $150, use your existing phone and get really smooth footage with that. Now I've got a couple of accounts here, local inspiration for nature and wildlife. Cape Hillsborough Nature Tourist Park always got some great content up there if you want to check that out. Hamilton Island Wildlife, I've got some great content from over there at Hamo. Broken River Mountain Resort, they've got some great photos on there as well of honey eaters and things like that. And the Mackay Regional Botanic Gardens, they do a fantastic job. They've got some great footage on there of the butterflies we had flying through the region recently. So if you're looking for a little bit of inspiration about places to check out and angles to take photos and videos from and how these guys do it, jump onto their Facebook pages, their Instagram accounts, and give them a follow. Now, I'm going to look at food content for this next one and planning for when it comes to shooting food content. That's one of the other, when you're looking to market a destination or a particular place or experience, people are always interested in food. What can I eat when I'm there? So these next few slides are going to talk about planning for when I'm taking photos and videos of food content. First of all, I'll look at what's the best time of day, and that generally, well, that depends on the type of food and feeling you're trying to create. The examples I'm going to use here today are to do with picnics and outdoor dining because they're quite popular at the moment. While restaurants are limited to 10 people inside, the majority of people are going to get takeaway food, go and do picnics and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to run through, if I'm doing a plan for a picnic style shoot, some of the factors that I take into consideration with that. With your lighting for picnic shoots, you're generally looking at around midday or later on in the day, what we call golden hour around sunset, to give those really nice warm golden romantic sort of type tones in the photo. Fortunately, picnics are stationary. You've got your food, you've got it there. It's not going to move around, except if it's a little bit windy. I've got an example there from the beach on an island that I took some photos of a picnic there. And it was all great except the wind gusts would blow up with the towel. So if you're going to plan that, just if you can, maybe put a couple of little rocks or just heavier items towards the edge of the towel so it doesn't blow up and it doesn't blow your wine glasses and champagne and stuff all over, because it's not much fun having to continually fix that up. So just keep an eye on the wind when you're photographing picnics. Do I capture photos or videos? Well, why not both? I look at, first of all, I'm trying to get photos. My number one priority is getting photos of the food with a beautiful backdrop. Got some examples here of, I was at Wilson Island, we've got some wine out, we've got a little cheese board there. So I've got photos of that with the wine and cheese up close because that's the focus. And then we've got the beautiful backdrop in the background. Now, once I've got those photos there, I look at, okay, what can I do next with getting some video content? And one of my favourite options is to shoot what's known as a boomerang video. And I'll just play you an example of what we've shot here with this boomerang video to give you an idea. So it's a 1 second video and it captures your hand moving in with the glass, and then that's it. And then what it does is it plays that footage back and forth, back and forth. So what takes 1 second to shoot, you can generate a 5 or 6 second clip out of it, and it's just a fun way to show we're having a great time down at the beach with a picnic at sunset. And if you'd like to look at producing your own boomerang videos, then I've just popped up on the screen there the app that you can download for that on your phone. So that previous video that I showed you there, that was just shot on my iPhone using this Boomerang from Instagram app. You can download that from the App Store. It's free, and you can do it with a lot of different activities. They really share the energy of a scene that you wouldn't have come across in a photo. So yeah, if you're doing a cheers or something like that by the beach, look at grabbing one of those, and then you've got that content as well as your regular stills.
And Mark, I'd also like to say they make very hilarious family photos. I've got some great family shots doing boomerangs. They really are fun. So everybody have a little bit of fun with it with your family or your friends. Exactly. And then maybe when you want to get a bit serious about it, do that. But yeah, they're such good fun and they usually get really good engagement.
Exactly. It's like people aren't used to seeing that sort of content. So you pop up a fun boomerang, they usually do really well. Now, what are the best angles when it comes to taking food photographs? So with mine, I like to have the food at the foreground of the scene and then include a little bit of scenery in the background. So in that top example there, I was shooting last year for Tourism Australia. We were down at the Noosa Boathouse and we wanted a photo of the food. But then we wanted to show the boathouse, it's on the river there, there's pelicans in the background. Now, the only way to capture all that in the one shot is with a wide angle lens. So that's what I use for a lot of my food photos, is a wide angle lens. So you can capture not only just the food, which looks great, but also the scenery, which helps paint the whole picture and go, you know what, I want to go along to the Noosa Boathouse for lunch or dinner. It looks like an amazing place to eat. And another important element with food photos is trying to include a human element. Now, you don't need a whole person in the shot. You just need somebody's hand in the shot holding a glass of wine or with cutlery, something like that, just to show that a human element so people can connect to the shot. And another popular angle is a top-down shot as well. It can look a bit funny when you're standing there at the table and you've got all your friends around it and they're reaching in to grab a different plate and things like that, and you're towering up high with the camera trying to get the flat lay of it. But they're another fun way of showing an enjoyable eating place. And also look at keeping your horizon straight. I can't stress that enough, not just with food photos, but with any type of photos, keeping your horizon straight. I've got some editing tips coming up shortly. I'll show you about how to keep your horizon straight. With food photos, now this is the same slide that I showed pretty much for the nature and wildlife. So you get your wide angle lenses for your food. You can shoot your videos on your smartphone. If you're going to be moving through the scene though with the camera, look at getting a gimbal. You have to have a gimbal if you're going to be moving the camera around, because your hands, as steady as you think they are, when you look back at the footage, there's always just a little bit of movement in it that it detracts from the scene. Some local inspiration here now. These guys are doing an amazing job with their content to do with food. Picnics, Boho and the Go, they've got some great settings from around Mackay. If you're looking at creating your own picnic scene, look to them for inspiration. With cafes and restaurants, I like to look at the Old Station Tea House and Laffo's Bar and Pizzeria. You look at that food in those photos and you go, oh my God, I've got to go and have that pizza or that eggs benny. You just want to jump straight in the car and head there to eat. And the Great Edward Sunday Farmers Market, they do a great job as well. They're showing not only just the produce, but the people behind it. And check out their Facebook page for some more local inspiration to do with food.
I took those Greater Whitsunday Farmers Market photos.
Oh, well done, Chrissy. That's great. I love them. What did you shoot those with, Chrissy? Was that with the iPhone?
That was my iPhone 10 because I do 3 hours at the farmers market on a Wednesday morning as operations, but part of my job is to do like a Facebook post in the morning.
Brilliant.
So that one was just about letting people know who our farmers were.
Yeah, and it did a great job. You've got the produce there in front, and you've got the smiling, happy people behind the scenes that are out there. They're growing it and bringing it to market. And yeah, you shot it with an iPhone, so you don't need to go and get the most expensive gear out there. Quite often, the camera that you've got on your phone does the job very, very well.
And I just changed the filter to Vivid.
Now I'm about to touch on filters, so perfect timing. Perfect timing. First of all, if you want to straighten the horizon on your photos, I use an Apple iPhone. So if you've got your phone, jump into the Photos app and then select the particular photo that you want to straighten the horizon of. Bring it up on the screen and then tap Edit. And then there's this little, like a square with a couple of arrows going in opposite directions there. You click on that and then you can go through to the effect button below that, whether it's straightening it or adjusting the vertical or horizontal perspectives. I generally only play around with the straighten side of things, and then you just move the slider to adjust the effect. So if your horizon's like that, bring it back to straight. And then you can tell how much adjustment has been made by looking at the yellow outline around those buttons down the bottom there. So have a play around with that. If you've got some photos on your camera roll that you like, but you notice the horizon's out just a little bit, just jump in, edit it, and then save it. Now the filters. This is we'll touch on filters here. I've got a screenshot of the filters from Instagram because they're the ones that most people know about, and they're the quickest and easiest to use. They change the whole feeling of a photo quite often as you're scrolling through. The different filter options, you can look at Clarendon, Gingham, all the rest of those ones there. They've each got their own different slightly feel to it. Some of them change the saturation of the photo, some of them change the contrast, some change the brightness, some change the sharpness. Just go through until you find one that you think does a particularly good job of photographing that particular, putting across that feeling that you've tried to photograph in that scene. And then if you're not quite happy with that, so in this instance, if you had the Clarendon filter and you thought, oh, it's not quite, it's really nice, but it's not quite, you double tap on that, a slider pops up and you can slide back and forth the strength of that particular filter there. So next time, if you're looking at playing around with your filters on Instagram, double tap on it and just play around with the slider just to see if you can't make it just that little bit more appealing.
Just at the end of this session, could we just maybe get people who are unfamiliar with that on their phone and just make sure they're familiar with how to do it?
Yeah, so if you've got the Instagram app, it's just a matter of opening up your app, selecting the photo that you wanted to edit, hitting next, and then along the bottom there, playing with a particular filter there. It's all about experimentation and playing around with it. I might spend 5 or 10 minutes sometimes going through looking at different filters and strengths and things like that. So yeah, if you have a look at that screenshot there, that's the window that you need on Instagram. You've got filter on the bottom left and edit on the bottom right. You want to stay in filter and just scroll through the different types of filters there. that make sense?
Yep, thank you.
No worries. Editing options. Now, for those that have been to some of my other sessions on photography, they'll know that this is my number one app that I love to use, Snapseed. It's free and it's quite easy to use. It's a little bit more advanced than what you'd find if you were editing just with Instagram. You can do a bit more with Snapseed. So if you get some time, if you don't already have the app, go into the App Store and download Snapseed. It's free of charge, and it's a great tool. I use it for nearly all my photos when I'm looking at posting to Instagram or Facebook. You can brighten the images, you can increase saturation, and you can remove annoying spots. So if you might have a nice scene in front of you, but you've got a couple of birds or something like that in the top of the frame that you don't particularly want in the sky, you can remove them with this app as well. I'll take you through an example here of a photo that I got from Cape Hillsborough at sunrise using this app. So I've gone through, I'm in Snapseed, I've selected the photo that I wanted. You then go into the editing options there with the tools. So I've got a screenshot there of the different tools that you can use in Snapseed. My most frequently used tool is the selective option. So with that selective option, you can use a particular part of the photo. You can highlight a particular part of the photo, like I've got in this example here. I wanted to brighten the sky a little bit more, add a little bit more saturation. So I clicked on that spot there. I expanded the radius of the area that I wanted affected by it, and then moving my finger up and down on the screen, I selected saturation, and then up the top you can see a slider. Now that slider there shows you the strength of the saturation. You can move it back and forth. You can go negative if you wanted to. If you wanted to desaturate the photo, you can do that as well. But that slider there tells you just how strong that particular effect is. And you're not just limited to one spot in the photo. You can, with this example here, I showed all the different spots that I edited the photo in. So I've gone from different parts of the sky to the hills, to the kangaroo, and to the sand at the bottom. I've done different things to each of those. Some of those I've played with the saturation, I've increased the saturation. Others I've played around with the brightness. So I want to make the kangaroo, just remove a little bit of the shadow that was on the kangaroo. So I just brightened it there. So there's a whole lot of different things you can do with that Snapseed editing function. If you want to get a little bit more advanced, then look at Adobe Lightroom. You do need a subscription for this. You can get I think it's like a week or 2 week trial for free. So if you're looking at getting more into photography and editing, I'd recommend downloading a free trial of Lightroom and jumping on YouTube and doing a few beginner classes to do with Lightroom, just to get your head around how to operate it and get the most out of it. I spend a lot of my time on YouTube learning new tricks and new tools and things like that. It's a fantastic asset. So jump on there, watch the YouTube clip, and do the editing. If you've got 2 screens, you can have the YouTube clip on one side and then the Lightroom open on the other screen. And as they're going through the editing tips on there, you can do the same to your screen. Now, lastly, I'm just going to touch on some latest trends and opportunities with Instagram. Now, this feature's been around for a little while, but it's not being used as often and as well as what it could be. So I just thought I might bring it to people's attention if you weren't aware of it. Now, the carousel feature means you're not just posting one photo, you can post multiple photos. And the benefit of that is you can tell a bit of a story. So photo 1, you might have this, photo 2, you've got that, photo 3, you've got that, or you might do a photo and a video. And if you've posted so you've got a couple of photos or a photo and a video, if people are scrolling through their news feed and they scroll past the first photo, they weren't that impressed by it, what Instagram does is further down the feed, the video then pops up. And so that might grab people's attention. So it's an opportunity to grab people's attention a second time. And I think it's a really underused asset on Instagram. So if you haven't used carousel features before, look at trying it out. The example I've got on the screen here is I've got a photo of the turtle, Lady Elliot. He came up and he was taking a breath on the surface there. If you scroll through to the next one, I've got a video of that same turtle, and this was a little bit later on. He was swimming along, but he came up to the surface again. So I just wanted to provide a photo and a video of that same scene to really grab people's attention and show them just how clear that water is and just how amazing the turtles are there at Lady Elliot. Second opportunity, one that's really taken off during this COVID crisis, is live Facebook videos. If you've been paying attention to Visit Queensland and Tourism Australia's Facebook pages over the last couple of weeks, they are pumping out sunrise, sunset, cooking classes, you name it, live content. And people are reacting really well to it. They're engaging with it and they absolutely love it. It's a lot of people are at home, they're looking for some entertainment, they can't get out and about at the moment because we've been stuck to being within our towns and our suburbs. So how do we see a different part of Australia or a different part of the world? A Facebook live video. They're extremely authentic. There's nothing more authentic than a live experience. It's not scripted or anything like that. Like, this is happening right in front of you. If you've got a sunrise or a sunset scene in front of you, you can't script that. It's just Mother Nature putting on a show, and people love seeing that. So there's a couple of options there to look into. Check out Queensland Tourism Australia's Facebook live streams. Tourism Australia had millions and millions of views over this last weekend of their live streams from different activities around different states, cooking classes and things like that. If you've got a restaurant or a cafe and you've got a particular item that you know you can put together a 10 or a 15-minute little cooking class or something like that, take a look at Facebook live videos and look at putting one together. If you're going to be moving around a bit, use your gimbal again. And if you do look at doing one, I'd suggest maybe Sunday afternoon or evening. They're prime time. Give your viewers a bit of a heads up though. I'd probably do a post at least a week beforehand and then a couple of days beforehand, just mentioning that you're going to be doing this cooking class or this live Facebook sunrise or sunset viewing on a Sunday at whatever time. Give people a heads up so they know that it's coming up and they're looking forward to it.
Mark, this is, yep. I think that's really important because we're talking about, what we've been talking about is everybody sort of creating content. So we've got that regional messaging happening.
Yep.
And we have a lot of people doing this in our region, and, you know, like hashtag Mackay Pride, hashtag Mackay, you know, all these sort of things.
Yep.
This is, you know, I think it'd be really, really opportune for us to be all doing this just
Yep.
to promote our area.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure you're using those hashtags when you're promoting these live Facebook pages and videos and things like that. But it's a great way to stand out from the rest because not a lot of other regions are doing these sorts of videos and these live things. So check it out, familiarise yourself with the content, and then have a chat with Mackay Tourism or myself if you like about how you go about creating these live Facebook sessions. The last tool, the latest trend or opportunity that's really starting to take off is 360 photos and videos. Now, I've been shooting these for a little while here, and they're a great way to showcase an experience in a more interactive way. And I'll give you an example here from Cape Hillsborough. So just give me a second. I'll just jump into... All right, now has that popped up on everyone's screens? We've got the kangaroos on the beach there.
It's up.
It's up. All right, now I'm going to hit, what this is a video, so I'm going to hit play, and you can actually scroll around the scene and see the activity happening from 360 degrees. So we've got the people here, they're just walking away. We've got these couple of kangaroos that have come right up to the camera, and then they start having a bit of a boxing match, and then you can scroll around the scene, look all around. You can see me there coming in to take a photo. You can scroll back. Kangaroo comes down. You can scroll down and have a look at what he's looking at down there on the ground. He sticks his head back up there to have a sniff of the camera, and you can scroll around again. You've got complete control over what it is you want to look at in that particular scene. So these 360 videos are a great tool for being able to really showcase an experience in a really interactive manner and giving control to people to show what they want to, so that they can control what they see on the screen. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about that, you can jump onto my Facebook page. I've got some 360 videos on there, and you can scroll around. That's the great thing about it. They're shared on, you can share them on your Facebook page, and they get quite good engagement as well.
Kath wanted to know, was that on a timer?
No, so I set that up on, this was with a GoPro Max. So you do have to have a specific 360 camera for it. It's a GoPro Max. I got that for $600. I put that on a monopod, and I just hit record. I popped it down on the sand just in front of where these kangaroos and people were standing. And then I just walked back and I just let kangaroos do their thing. I didn't know what was going to happen next. And unfortunately, they decided to put on a little bit of a show for me right there. So if it takes a little bit of planning to know where to put the camera and to put it in scenes that will create really interactive experiences like the kangaroos there. Like, there's no point putting it just down on the beach and having nothing happening around it. You want to have a little bit of action happening in the shot. So I made sure that I put it down near the kangaroos, and then I walked away and I let them do their thing. And fortunately they put on a bit of a boxing match there.
Thank you.
That's all right. And that's it. So, look, if you've got any questions at all, feel free to jump on and send me a message on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, or jump on the website, send me an email. I love content creation. I love helping people with creating content for their businesses. So if you've got any questions or you need any tips, just sing out. Love to help.
Mark, I've just unmuted everybody now, just in case somebody would like to ask a question. And if you want to turn your video, it'd be nice to have a look at everybody.
Yeah.
Videos. Well, I know personally, after that, I know I'm getting an iPhone 11. That goes without saying, because it's upgrading phone time, and I've got a heap out of that myself. How did everybody else go?
Yeah. Great, thanks Chrissy, and thanks Mark.
No worries at all.
Awesome, guys, thank you. It's always
thank you, that was great.
It's always good to get extra stuff that you've sort of either put at the back of your head and gone, oh, maybe that might work, and knowing that you've already tried it as such and that it has worked. It's sort of like, okay, it can be a bit more experimental.
For sure. There's so much stuff that you go out and do and you experiment on the shoot. Like, you have a couple of shots in mind and you'll get those. You might have an extra 10 or 20 minutes up your sleeve. So you're like, all right, let's try this different angle, or let's try this different shot. It's all about experimenting and trying things out. And then if it doesn't work out, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, you're learning, you're constantly learning. So then if the same scenario presents itself next time and you've, and whatever didn't work last time, you go, okay, well, it didn't work for these reasons. Maybe we'll try it for these different reasons instead. So, yeah, there's so much trial and error involved.
Now that we're getting out and about a bit more, Dan was really open to coming out to people's establishments, whether it be accommodation or food places, whatever, and doing some of that 360-degree footage to get some content. So if you're interested in him coming out, just let us know. I'm sure he hasn't got much to do at the moment, as neither of us have, but I'm sure we can fit that in somewhere. So just all you need to do is flick me an email and we'll be able to get that sorted for you.
Mark, can I ask another question?
Yeah, for sure.
Have you entered the world of augmentative stuff?
So with Jeff from Live Orbeez, so with those 360 photos, you can then have them used in the Live Orbeez. And he's used a couple of my photos there for the scenes, and yeah, it's fantastic. It's another way of for people to experience a destination or an experience without being there. And at the moment, you can't travel, so it's a great opportunity there. You've got the app, you open it up, you walk through the doorway, and then you've got that 360 scene right in front of you. So yeah, I think it's another important avenue that if you've got the time to look at it, I think it's worth investing time in.
Cheers.
Anybody else got any more questions? No?
I have a question for Mark, and I might need to contact you later about that.
Yeah, no worries.
my Instagram account for the tea house was hacked earlier in the year.
Okay.
I've tried to reset the password, and that notification goes to the person who hacked it. So I don't know how else to get it back. I've also sent emails to Instagram with no result.
I've got a couple of contacts there. If you want to shoot me an email with those details, Michelle, and then I can get in contact with the guys on Instagram and just see who the best person is there to try and speed things up, because quite often that their online help, it goes off to this place and they can be quite slow to react. So if you send me through those details, I'll reach out to those people and see if we can speed it up for you.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
No worries.
And don't forget about our session next Thursday. That'll be with Jodie from Red Hot Blues. So we've had a session on the who, what, how, why of content creation. Now we've learned how to create content. So Jodie, through her Lemonade project, Marketing Made Easy, is sort of going to bring it all together for us. So, and all these sessions are recorded. So I know this one, especially to leaders too, you know, I'll be going back and watching those. So we've sort of created a YouTube playlist that we sent the links out yesterday in the e-newsletter. So just keep those links, because you can jump on that playlist any time. And I've decided we'll sort of start a bit of a library of all this, so people can go back to the business sessions, the social media sessions. Yeah, I think we're going to end up with a bit of an extensive library if we're not allowed to have one or events where we're face to face. So anyway, that's great. So we can do that. Yeah. And again, thank you, Local Buying Foundation, for supporting this event. It's just been wonderful. And Mark, that was fabulous. I found that just so useful.
Oh, thanks very much. I enjoy sharing my tips and things like that. Anything I can do to help you guys, help shorten the time it takes for you guys to learn how to do these things. Yeah, I love it. So yeah, any questions at all, flick me through an email or a comment or something like that on Instagram or Facebook, and yeah, love to help.
Mark, do you provide lessons?
I haven't yet. I've had a few inquiries about it, but yeah, look, I'm more than happy to come out and do one-on-ones and things like that, or if there's a group of you as well. I think we've done a couple of Instameets with Mackay Tourism as well, and that's quite often a good way for people to come along. They've got their cameras with them on the spot. We go to a place like Lambert's Beach or Black's Beach or Cape Hillsborough, and we can put these lessons into play with their camera equipment at the time. So we might look at doing an Instameet or something like that, Chrissy. Once we can all get out and about a bit more, and you can all bring your cameras along, and we can have a play then too.
If anybody feels like that they do need a bit more help with some of those things we were talking about, I do have some of those, like I was saying, the mentoring sessions available. I sort of had put them all in the business basket, but people are really obviously interested in learning more about these things. So let me know. I'll get a negotiator price with Mark. Good price. Yep. And we can get that sorted for, even if there's a couple of you, you know, there might be a couple of you who really haven't done very much of this and would sort of more like to go to the beginners type level or intermediate or advanced. Let us know so we can sort of get the right people together. But let's get this sorted sooner rather than later. So once we all people start coming back to our region, and we all start to get really busy again, you know, like busy with, you know, our visitors, that all of a sudden we don't have any time. So if you can get back to me on that ASAP, that would be fabulous. And again, if anybody needs help with that $10,000 grant that came out, I put it on Mackay Tourism Facebook yesterday. We'll be able to get you a session with Shift to help you work through that. So that'll be a 1-hour session just to help you. But I need to know who needs help, or I can't help you. So just a phone call or an email, whatever you like. Okie dokie. Thanks so much again, Mark.
All right. Thank you, guys.
See you, everybody. And we'll try and have another networking session soon so we can all have a bubbles together.
Cheers.
Okay. All right. See you all later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.